Ah, Hi everyone, Sick the Knee Riff Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Nick Cave and Warren Ellis project, Carnage. This is a new collaboration between legendary singer-songwriter Nick Cave, as well as multi-instrumentalist and composer Warren Ellis. To be explicit about it, this is not a Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds record, and it isn't a solo Nick Cave record, it's a collaboration, which I have to say because it does feel a little weird for Cave and Ellis to be detouring in this way at this point, especially since these two have worked together now for years. I mean, Ellis has been a member of the Bad Seeds since like the 90s. Him and Cave have worked on numerous soundtracks and scores together. Ellis has also taken the seat as co-producer on the past two Bad Seeds records, with his influence being most predominant on 2019's Ghosteen. So given all of that, how radically could a Cave-Ellis project be at this point, especially given, again, their very close work together as of late? Well, I guess the answer is it's not too far off stylistically from the gloomy trilogy that has taken up the Bad Seeds discography for this past decade. Maybe a bit less oppressively somber or singular and introspective in its writing, but still not that far off. Maybe doing something like this just marks the existence of a project where Cave and Ellis truly have equal collaborative footing, or maybe this is just a vibe, a sound that Cave and Ellis are really crazy about at this point, and they're not ready to give it up, and they want to continue exploring it without necessarily extending the trilogy that Cave said he effectively ended with Ghosteen. Now, I'm not trying to make this album seem less legitimate by psychoanalyzing what exactly went into the decision of putting it out here, because honestly, I do love the project, and I think it does best those Bad Seed trilogy records in at least some respects. For one, this thing isn't nearly the slog that Push the Sky Away was, much more vibrant too. Cave also comes off a bit more engaging and ferocious vocally than he was on Skeleton Tree, and I do love Skeleton Tree. And the dynamic range on this project is leagues better than it was on Ghosteen. I am still to this day perplexed as to why you would take a record that is so gentle and spacious and ambient in tone and mix it to sound like a dense brick of sound. Now, cynical listeners might write this project off as Ghosteen Part 2 or leftovers from this trilogy due to some cursory parallels of soundtrack-ready strings and ambient sound beds. But Carnage reveals itself to be a much more different animal to anybody paying attention. Now, this thing is 8 tracks strung out along 40 minutes, and the track list isn't exactly cohesive, with each song kind of spinning its own sonic or narrative web, but it's still a record that stands on the quality of how good each track is on an individual level. Yeah, I could give you that Lavender Fields does go by in a bit of a breeze. The title track instrumentally could really slip into Ghosteen without much of a fuss, and there are a few fade-out endings along the track list that do leave me wanting a bit more, but it's hard to focus on such minor flaws with this LP, especially when it opens up with a stunner like Hand of God, where this wonderfully raw mix of strings, throbbing electronics, and pianos feels like, I don't know, an Alan Vega track, but with a Lynchian twist. It doesn't really sound quite as studio as Ghosteen did. In fact, this piece feels so organic, it's like I'm listening to it live, just like a really high-quality live recording. Nick Cave's eccentric moans and croons deliver a fiery swagger we haven't really heard since Dig Lazarus Dig, which I think stands out even more against this very somber, mountainous wall of instrumentation, attached to this chilling choral vocal section of Hand of God, Hand of God, Hand of God. Overall, the track is just a really incredible first taste of what's to come. The following, Old Time, is a highlight for me too, with its linear, meditative rhythms, dramatic lead vocals, and lyrically, a lot of frightening musings about and obsession with the past, leading to, I guess, some kind of regression. To me, the track feels like a Grinder Man song if you could wrap it in really ornate arrangements and slow it down a bit, make it a more cerebral experience as opposed to pounding the audience with distorted guitars. Replace those instead with some psychedelic, wild violin embellishments, which introduce themselves as the instrumental becomes more and more menacing by the minute. The title track I mentioned earlier lays it on heavy with these ambient, droning, Twin Peaks soundtrack style synths, and I do enjoy the track aesthetically, but really it is the somber and powerful tune at the core of it that sells it. It's only love driving through the rain. It's so wonderfully melodramatic and melodic, I can't get enough of it. Then White Elephant is a surprisingly rockin' pick-me-up in the middle of the record, with some strong social commentary on the front end about the warranted removal of racist statues featuring Civil War-era losers. Nick's poetry up until the midpoint of the song is fiery and compelling, really sees him in character, and then the track suddenly lifts off into this heavenly ascent of group vocals, piano. Now, don't let the generally dour demeanor of this project psych you into thinking that Albuquerque is just some sad sack piano ballad. It's actually a really beautiful and idyllic tune, almost like a ray of hope in this unbearably shitty past year. If you read into the lyrics on this track, it's almost like Nick Cave is inviting the listener to just sleep themselves through all this terror. And we won't get to Anywhere Darlin' anytime this year, and we won't get to Anywhere Darling unless I dream you there. Then there is Shattered Ground, which is underscored by these high-definition new age synth layers, topped with maybe the most haunting and pained vocal performance on the entire album. The vocals and backing instrumentation are actually an incredible contrast, especially as Cave begins to border on just angrily ranting on the track. Only you are beautiful, only you are true, I don't care what they are saying, they can scream their fucking faces blue again. Which I know is aggressive and the track overall seems very emotionally volatile, but it's still when you read into it, a song of incredible love and devotion. A lot of these themes carry over onto the pretty strong closer, Balcony Man, which essentially boils down to being with your significant other equating to a kind of bliss, a euphoria, represented with a gorgeous rush of pianos and vocals on the back end reaching a nice crescendo. But overall, yeah, just really solid record from Cave and Ellis. Sure, you could make the argument this is nowhere near as cohesive or as focused as any of the records in that Bad Seeds trilogy that recently ended, and you would certainly be right, but I just am drawn to the overall quality of these songs on an individual level, the versatility of this track list, as well as just the swagger and just the attitude that this record has that I feel like, again, that incredible somber trilogy didn't really have. And obviously it didn't have that purposefully. I feel like on this record, Cave and Ellis play with a lot of those sounds still, but get a bit more wild with it and start to let loose a little bit. Feeling a decent 2 strong 8 on this one, Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head, it's another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Nick Cave, Warren Ellis, forever.